The nation's searing wound is ripped open again and again. Is there a way to stop mass violence before it ever happens? And our cup overfloweth with lakes and rivers on the rise. Is this the new normal? And if it is, what does it mean? Today is Sunday, August 11th, 2019, and this is Flashpoint. Hi, welcome to Flashpoint. I'm glad you're with us this morning. 7.5 years ago, 20 children, all 6 or 7 years old, 20 children were killed when a gunman opened fire at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. That was long after Columbine and long before what we saw last weekend in El Paso and Dayton. 26 people were killed in all at Sandy Hook, but 20 little kids. Most everyone came out of it saying, we have to do something, but that something proved elusive. And so now here we are with El Paso and Dayton and Gilroy and Parkland and Pittsburgh and Las Vegas and too many others, and we're debating again, but to what end? Can we find a way to do something? I mean, maybe we can't do everything, but can we do something? Because maybe our disagreements over whether we can do everything keeps us from doing anything. We're going to talk this morning with the voices of law enforcement. Where can we find enough common ground through which we can carve a path out of this disgraceful and insane pattern that keeps repeating itself? And a little later on, the water has been on the rise to a dangerous degree. Flooding problems all over the place. Docks and piers swallowed up, causing danger along our shorelines, and swells and currents that have taken almost 36 lives in Lake Michigan alone this summer. If this is a new normal, what does the Great Lakes State need to do to manage our greatest natural resource? It's all today on Flashpoint. Well, the last week has been dominated by worries over these mass sprays of violence that hit El Paso and Dayton, but those were merely the most recent. For most of us, it can be a passing concern, but for some, it's their job to worry and strategize over imagining the worst. And I have 3 such people with me today. First, Wayne County Sheriff and the former police chief of the city of Detroit, Benny Napoleon, is here. For 27 years, he's been the Washtenaw County prosecutor. Brian Mackey is with us, and the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan, Matthew Schneider, back with us again. Gentlemen, thanks very much for being here. Brian, I'd like to start with you because you said something just before we started this conversation that is chilling and goes to the heart of the problem. You said, I fear we're losing our ability to be shocked. Once we get to that point, I don't know that we can muster the energy or the imagination to solve anything, can we?
It's difficult. It's difficult. I think about early in my career, a school shooting at the University of Michigan campus. 2 murdered. The murderer meant to get many more. He had a hit list. But that would not be news now beyond Michigan for a day.
That was early 80s, right?
It was Good Friday, April 17th, 1981, yes.
Yeah. Benny, what do? We all throw up our hands. We muster a lot of, I mean, it's painful. This is agonizing for so many Americans, and yet finding a path forward. What would help you sleep easier at night? As somebody
it would take a whole lot. And,
I'm sure.
I'm not real comfortable that will happen because, you know, there are names that are just burned into our brains. Parkland, Columbine, Sandy Hook, Virginia Tech, Las Vegas, Pulse nightclub. I mean, and we could go on and on and on. But my frustration and my agony and my real belief that this problem is something that is going to be extremely difficult to solve occurred when we didn't see any real action after Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
When you think that someone could murder 20 babies and that does not get people at the table jointly talking about that, and it's a discussion like the one that's going on right now because of what happened in Dayton and what happened in El Paso. You're going to have discussion. There's going to be a whole lot going on for a week or two, and then it's going to be silence until something else happens.
But Matthew, does it speak to the fact that we don't really seem to know what to do about it?
Well, first of all, we have to acknowledge for all of us that this problem is not going away, and in fact, it's getting worse. As Brian was saying, in his history, that one incident happened and it was shocking then, but now it's happening over and over and over. So far this year, we've had 17 of these mass shootings, mass killings. The year before we had 27. The year before that we had 30. But if you look at the trajectory,
and that's you're using a
going
different,
up.
because some people say a mass shooting amounts to 3 or more people being shot, which makes many more than what you just
Absolutely.
described. You're
I'm
talking
using
about
the FBI statistics of what they qualify as a mass
In a
shooting,
big
which is a
public
lot
place.
of people,
Yeah.
a lot of folks. However, the incidences of gun violence are only increasing. So we have to acknowledge the fact for all of us that something needs to be taking place, and we can't just ignore it because it's not going to go away on its own.
We seem to be, Brian, at a place, though, as I said off the top of the program, that because we can't seem to come up with something that we think would solve everything, then we don't do anything.
Exactly. We know many things we need to do. There is just not the will.
And what are those things?
Well, the words gun control are anathema to many people, but we need more gun control. We need several things. You shouldn't be able to buy an automatic conversion kit, that is, to turn a firearm into an automatic firearm. You shouldn't have the
This is beyond the bump stocks, right?
Yeah.
Because those have been outlawed.
You should not have readily available silencers. You should not have assault weapons. We know all these things. We should have a waiting period between trying to buy a gun, applying for it, and having a background check. There should be universal background checks. We can't even get consensus on that.
No, we can't. Go ahead.
When you really look at it, those of us in law enforcement have been advocating for a long time about the ban on assault weapons. I mean, if you look at these mass killings, the one thing that is in common is the type of weapon really that was used. You can't go in and kill 20, 30, 40, 50 people without something that has the capacity to be automatic in a large magazine capacity. If we all know that, that's the common denominator with all this. I support those in law enforcement, support the Second Amendment, but there should be limits on what you can and cannot own.
It's interesting because I think there's general agreement that I shouldn't be allowed to buy a bazooka.
Correct.
Or an anti-aircraft weapon. So everybody's agreeing, I guess, by saying that there is a line. We're just arguing over where the line is, right?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, okay, that probably.
I mean, I don't think you don't want to outlaw handguns.
No,
do you?
absolutely not.
Or rifles.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But anything that would be defined as a weapon of war, something that our military uses to go into a combat zone where its sole design is to kill people. No one hunts with an AK-47. You know, no one's hunting with a lot of these AR-15s. These are weapons of mass destruction, and I think that we have to recognize what they're used for and restrict who gets to own those kinds of weapons.
You know, I don't think that's necessarily the total solution for us.
Not totally.
Right, because...
But that's what is it a solution? Because that's what I'm back to, something versus anything.
I don't know that it is, because you can make any laws about, restricting any types of weapons. If you're a criminal and you want to get a gun, you're going to get a gun. What we need more is more awareness in the community. There have been so many warning signs of these shooters that people have been told ahead of time. That person told me that they wanted to kill somebody. That person told me that they wanted to commit acts of violence. Well, if you have that knowledge, it's incumbent upon you to come to law enforcement and explain that so that we can all work together and take steps.
Is there a reason not to have a red flag law like that then?
Well, the policymakers can make whatever laws that they want. Whether you have a red flag law or not, it's still incumbent upon citizens to take their own affirmative steps and call local law enforcement and say, I have a suspicion that this person told me that they want to kill somebody. You should look into that. Anybody can do that, whether you have a law on the books or not.
Brian, go ahead. Interesting. I want to point out, being where you are and being around U of M, a lot of the incubator sort of thinking on some of these people, on many of these mass shooters, seems to happen at the age of, say, people who are in college or so. So I'm interested in your awareness of this.
What Matt said is true about people should contact law enforcement, as the mother of the murderer in the last one in Texas.
In El Paso did, yes.
There wasn't much that could be done.
Yeah.
And I disagree on criminals will still get guns. True, criminals are criminals, But some of these shooters are not criminals.
Certainly not much
They have
of a
not been
record.
criminals until they start at the very top of crime.
What would, Benny, what would a solid sort of approach to this sort of citizenry, everybody looking out for their neighbor, how do we make that
It's
work?
almost like to see something, say something.
It is that. That's exactly right.
So
Do we have the bandwidth and the manpower, though, to chase down everybody that you get a call about?
those of us in law enforcement don't. There's no way we could monitor in law enforcement all the traffic that goes, but somebody is monitoring what other people are saying. You know, somebody who has 50, 60,000 people on Instagram or whatever, and they're following folks and they see something that should raise a flag, then that's when they're incumbent. So we would have to, as we in law enforcement quite often do, have to rely upon the citizens to inform us when they see something that is not, that we may not be aware of, just like what happened with the young man in El Paso. Somebody said something, but what we did with it is a question. Was it proper? I don't know. I think as we dig in further, we'll figure it out.
And the reason why that is so important is this conversation goes well beyond firearms. If you look at what happened in France, somebody used a truck to drive through a crowd. In Ohio, somebody attacked people with a knife. They've done that in London. People who are homegrown violent extremists are using other weapons, not just firearms. They are targeting mass venues to inflict a mass amount of damage. And if we have some reporting about that, if law enforcement at least has the tools, if they have more information from the public, then we have a better ability to step in.
What is it? We can point to some other places, but there's something uniquely American about our problem. What is it? What's going on? The rest of the world has violent video games. The rest of the world has internet and broadband access. The rest of the world does not have access to guns the way that we do in the U.S., although there are plenty of guns in Canada, for example, per capita, but nothing approaching the U.S. appetite for guns. What is it that's uniquely American about what's happening?
Well, the examples that I just used some of them didn't take place in America. I mean, you have New Zealand, you have London, you have France.
But we're the NFL. I mean, you're talking about the minor leagues. We're the NFL when it comes to mass killings.
We're the Super Bowl in the NFL.
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Yes.
Aren't we? I mean, is there something American about this that...
I think what we were talking about prior to us going on the air is that we seem to have a very big tolerance for these types of activities because they keep happening. We have this discussion like we're having now, and again, a few weeks later, it'll be like in
Back to what Brian said.
Yeah, just like Brian said, it'll be
Our
like
shock
it never
value
happened.
is wearing off.
Well, talk about the shock value weighing off. About 45 people are murdered in this country every day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
is that a story anymore? I mean, 45. If a foreign country invaded this country and inflicted the damage on us that we do to one
inflict
another,
on ourselves.
we'd go to war over that, and we have.
All right. Thanks for the conversation, man.
All right.
We got to get to a break. Thank you very much for being here. We come back. Well, what did we do about the rising waters all around us in Michigan? This is Flashpoint on Local 4.
DTE Energy wants to help you build Michigan's future. Whether your business is large, small, or in between, a DTE expert can partner with you to suggest new technologies and incentives to help you save money. Money you can use to create jobs and invest in the future. Because when your business thrives, Michigan does too. DTE Energy.
It's the final days of the Find Your Fab sale at Art Van Furniture and Mattress. New trends and best sellers, all with saving up to 65%. Plus, take an extra 20% off the lowest price. Get 0% financing up to 60 months with our Art Vantage Reward Card. Sofas, $823. Bedrooms, $699. Dining at $279. Don't miss it. The Find Your Fab sale with an extra 20% off. Final day Monday at Art Van Furniture and Mattress.
After receiving a delinquent property tax bill for the 2 lots connected to my home, I was concerned. I didn't even know that I had a past due bill. I went down to the Wayne County Treasurer's office, and the staff worked with me to keep my property out of foreclosure.
My property taxes became delinquent after I fell behind on my bills. Treasurer Sabri and his staff came to the town hall in my city and provided information about resources available to help me. At the meeting, I found out about payment plan options.
Let us help you. Our goal is 0 owner-occupied properties getting foreclosed and going to the auction. Come down to our office at 400 Monroe in downtown Detroit on the 5th floor. Call 313-224-5990 during our normal business hours from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and until 6:30 p.m. on Wednesdays. Or email textinfo@waynecounty.com for assistance. Take the first step. Contact our office today.
It worked for us.
Lake St. Clair, Lake Erie, Lake Superior, and Lake Ontario all set water level records in July. Lakes Michigan and Huron just a hair under their all-time highs. And whether it's the rush of water into yards and basements all along the shore, or the mayhem it's causing the tourism industry, from wrecked docks and piers to drownings in Lake Michigan, we're all wondering if this is some kind of a spike or if it's the new normal. Let's talk about it with Keith Kompoltowicz, who is the Chief of Watershed Hydrology for the Army Corps of Engineers, the Detroit District. In fact, the Coastal Engineering Research Board is meeting this week in Detroit at the Crowne Plaza Hotel. And former Congresswoman and now the Public Works Commissioner for Macomb County with all of its coastline, Candace Miller. Thank you both very much for being here. Keith, let me start with you, because we get used to watching up and downs, but it was only 7 years ago that we set lows, and now all of a sudden we're setting highs. What do you sense is happening?
Yeah, we crossed or reached from low to high in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
And a lot of the lakes now setting record highs, and the very fast nature at which the levels rose, quite honestly, caught some folks off guard.
Yeah.
We've again reached record highs on several of the lakes, and possibly set more records as we get into the fall. And that's when we get the big storms rolling across the lakes, too.
I don't understand how Superior and Erie can be at highs in Michigan and Huron, but there's clearly some things I don't understand about how the lakes work.
Each lake has its own kind of basin. So the conditions that drive the lakes are rainfall, runoff, and evaporation. And sometimes storm systems hit Lake Superior, and sometimes they hit Lake Erie, and with Michigan Huron between them. But it's been wet over the entire Great Lakes Basin for the past several months, and that has really driven this recent rise.
For one system, they all are their
Correct.
own separate entities.
Right.
It's really interesting. Candace, we've talked so much in this state about protecting our greatest resource. We haven't spent very much time talking about what we do if there's too much of it.
Yeah, really.
This is a really interesting problem to have.
It is. I would say that the only thing worse than high water is short water, really, because as you just said, we just had short water. And I want to tell you this, Keith, he's the man. He's the guy. He knows more than anybody about all these lake levels, so it is sort of interesting. But, you know, you live on the water. We have to deal with it. We're very blessed to live in Michigan, the Great Lakes state. And we are being impacted in Macomb County in so many ways, in our drains, on our streets. You can drive along Jefferson, and you know there's all these.
All over the place.
And people say, "Oh, my drain is all clogged up," and we're saying, "No, that is lake level. You know, you can't pump it because you can't pump the entire lake." But
There really is a
everywhere.
misunderstanding among a lot of folks of exactly where the problems lie.
Yeah.
But this is getting very expensive for a lot of people.
It really is, and it's all throughout the entire basin. I was just talking to the supervisor of Clay Township, that's Harson's Island. My gosh, they're having all kinds of trouble with their septic tanks are popping up out of the ground because it's so saturated. In Macomb County, it's costing us a lot of money. We have St. Clair Shores and Harrison Township that have both declared states of emergency, so that if you are not sandbagging or taking care of your particular property and you're impacting your neighbor, they could come and do it for you and charge you.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're spending huge amounts of dollars on the sandbags, on the sand, and it is damaging
Seawalls,
property.
on and on.
It just goes on and on.
Keith, it's really hard to think of an area of Michigan's economy that doesn't end up being affected by all this. I mean, clearly it has a huge impact on tourism. I talked about the piers and the decks that are disappearing, but agriculture, there's so much wrapped up in our ability to understand and deal with this. What can we do about it, though?
Well, you know, living in Michigan, it's great that we're surrounded by the
We've always said
world's
so
greatest
until we're
freshwater resource.
Right.
And unfortunately, right now there are a lot of negative impacts because of how high the water levels are going. The Corps of Engineers is involved in providing technical assistance to many communities across the Great Lakes Basin, including here in Southeast Michigan and in the city of Detroit itself. So we're always looking at this, always looking at ways we can help.
You know, some people think the Corps of Engineers actually control the lake levels. I hear that all the time, right, through the Sulaks, et cetera. But really, I don't know, a million opinions out there. In my opinion, it's the weather god. And then we have Keith to decipher what the weather god is telling us about the lake levels.
You got a pipeline on that?
The weather is the absolute cause of the fluctuating lake levels. And recently, there's just been more water coming in, and in extreme amounts, some of the wettest conditions that we've seen going back over the last several years.
John Gallagher wrote a piece in the Free Press not too long ago that basically said, without getting into the science of climate change, this could be a glimpse of what the new normal ends up being. If that's true, what do we need to do when it comes to not just policy, but actual engineering and the mechanicals of dealing with
Sure.
this?
So from the Corps' perspective, we're really focused on what's happening right now. So we have really good reasons why the levels have risen very quickly. The fact that they have covered the range from low to high in this very short amount of time is something that may continue to happen in the future. Again, we have to wait and see, but the preparation is to be prepared for the full range of water levels at that specific location, and the weather really is the driver of those fluctuations.
You know, and sometimes I'll get calls from people saying, geez, if they could just open up the Chicago Diversionary Canal a little bit more and let some of the lake water out. And you know, I also sit on the Great Lakes Commission, and of course we are very focused on the Great Lakes Compact about no diversion of the Great Lakes. And I always say, listen, this is going to pass, and we cannot go down that slippery slope of diverting the Great Lakes, the magnificent Great Lakes, because it's our lifeblood here, and we're not going to just start shipping it off
for one season, and it ends up being a lifetime decision.
Absolutely.
What do we need to do, though, as far as public policy, to create an understanding of, as Keith says, if our lows and highs are going to be so extreme, and that's really what we're seeing in so many different ways in weather systems and especially disastrous weather events, what do we do to be ready?
Well, you know, it's all different, right? It just depends on the elevation of your properties and all of these kinds of things. So I'm not quite sure if there's a blanket public policy, like a statewide or a Great Lakes Basin-wide, but certainly in the local municipalities, they are most familiar with what their particular situations are, and they have to be ready. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people in Harrison Township, where I live. I've said, you've plugged up your storm drains, you've got a good sub pump and a garden hose, and keep pumping, and don't take it down, because you might need it again next year. You know, who knows? I don't know if it's climate change or what have you. I certainly think that the intensity of the rains that we have, I don't remember them being so intense as they are now, and that is impacting us with combined sewer overflows and all kinds of things.
Was going to be my next question. How much of this is about our inability to really create modern infrastructure and improve our infrastructure in time to keep up with where we are?
And that's, again, all things that will have to be considered going future to be prepared for what could be very extreme shifts between high and low water levels.
With the low water levels, we were having to talk about dredging shipping channels.
Absolutely.
And now we've got the opposite problem, where the ships are riding plenty high, and they can, in fact, this has been pretty lucrative for them, because they can carry a lot more stuff now without it sinking them. But it means these huge wakes that are flooding yards.
I've seen some unbelievable videos of ship wakes, you know, running up on folks' property, especially Harson's Island and along the St. Clair River there. But certainly we're not talking about dredging anymore. You know, that was one of those low water impacts where you had to dredge to be able to get into certain places, and that's not the case.
I'll tell you, these no-wake zones, most boaters are very cognizant of the lake levels, and they try to be very careful about being in a no-wake area or what have you, and certainly the freighters are are really going slower, I think, through the St. Clair River and some of these areas. But, you know, gosh, people are losing their sense of humor with the guys that are
no
just
doubt about
blasting
it. Just
along
going right
here.
through.
Yes.
A no-wake zone suddenly means something that
Yes.
it hasn't before.
Very true.
All right, well, obviously something for us to keep watching, and if it is the new normal, we're going to have to adjust on the fly. Thank you both so much for being here. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. We'll continue with more final thoughts on Flashpoint right after this. Don't go away.